Hi everyone, Rob from Off the Arrow Shelf here. Leatherman's multi-tool. A while back I put a short out on YouTube, I think it was, about what was the one thing that you always carried with you for any archery related activity that wasn't just your bow and quiver and arrows. And for me it's this thing that here, the Leatherman's multi-tool. Why? Because I found it endlessly useful. In fact, I've got a couple of them, and that's the point of this video today. What I'm going to be doing is taking you through why I carry one and why I find it useful. And the obvious thing is it is a multi-tool, so it is easy to fit in a pocket. I've actually got a little ammo pouch. You can pick them up from army surpluses, and I think it's for a 9mm ammo magazine, and this fits perfectly in there, so you don't have to rely on the clip on the back because it's too easy for that to come off your belt in many ways. So what I do is I've got a little pouch, I drop it in there. This is the Leatherman Sidekick, and it's the one I actually prefer. The other one I'm going to be talking about, and you might, if you're a fan of my website, you'll know that I actually wrote a review of these about 10 years ago. This is the Wingman, and I'm going to talk about the Wingman later, but I'm going to talk about the one that I carry most often, which is the Sidekick. So first off, why do I carry it? Simple reason. The pliers, they're great for extracting arrows or broken arrow tips, or tips that have come off inside a archery target, usually a 3D. So immediately you've got that there. The other things, okay, so the other tools that I tend to use on this are pretty straightforward. There's a file there, and I've used it a few times just to put a point back or sharpen the point on a arrow point, simply because they may have got blunted from hitting a target. It's a quick way when you're out on a course just to sharpen up the point and get it working again. I used to use this, the crosshead screwdriver head, for my old tabs, because you used to be able to tighten up the actual tab on them, and it was the perfect size for that. I've swapped to a different tab manufacturer now, so that's not really necessary, but it does come with these. It's got a flat head and it's got a cross head, and it is actually quite useful, and it's been pretty good in the past. It's got me out of a few problems. It's a multi-tool, and I'm hoping that YouTube won't ban me or block me for this, but it does come with a small little blade there. What's the dimensions of it? About just under 2.5 inches, I think it is. Yeah, just under 2.5 inches. Really useful, sharp, easy to use. The other thing I've used is this, which is the little saw, and people say, oh, it's a tiny little saw, it's not going to do anything. Well, actually, it gets used quite a lot, and I've used it when I'm course laying. I've used it actually when I was at one championships, and one of the marshals was having problems walking around, and there was an old, I can't remember what it was. It was a hazel tree that had come down, and I managed to make an impromptu walking stick for them to get around by using that. So it is quite sharp. It does get used. It probably actually needs a bit of a clean looking at it, because I have actually used it recently. So that and the knife and the pliers gets used the most, and I really like it. As I said, I've had this for probably 8 to 10 years, and I really do like it. They work well. They're not overly heavy. When I'm camping, I carry it with me. When I'm out on a cycle ride, it's usually in a pocket somewhere, or it's in one of the panniers. Hiking, anything like that, I carry it. The other one I've got is the Wingman, and the Wingman is pretty much exactly the same as the Sidekick. There's bits falling out of it, insofar as it's got the same selection. It's nearly got exactly the same selection of tools. So you got screwdrivers there on that side. On this side, it's got the file, the can opener, the bottle opener. It's got this, which I've never managed to work out what it's for, but it's a tiny little blade. But again, the file is what I've used more often. But this one does not have the saw blade. What it has is a small pair of scissors. And you might think, well, what use is that? That actually has been really, really useful on a few occasions where I've had to cut a plaster, or when I've had to cut serving, when I'm having to be doing some reserving when I'm out in the field. I don't find it as useful as the saw blade, but that's probably because I use the saw more when I'm kind of coarse laying and doing stuff like that than I use the scissors. And in my first aid kit, I carry a pair of scissors anyway. But that's the main difference with it. It does still have a blade there, though the blade is slightly different because it's got that little bit of serration down there. Again, it's still really useful. 9 times out of 10, most of the time you're going to be using one of these is probably either for the blade to cut something, or the pliers to extract a wayward point or something along those lines. And I like them. Now, I know a lot of people have Gerbers or some other form of multi-tool, but I've got a couple of Leathermans. I really like them. They fit into a pocket. They're not overly heavy when you consider what you're actually using them for. And yes, I know people will turn around and says, well, it's a really small blade, you can't get an arrow, can't cut an arrow out of a tree with it. And that's no way would I even try, simply because the point is way too small for that. It's not a sheath knife or anything like that, so you're never going to have that. And likewise, the saw on it is not, a survival saw or a true pruning saw. But that's the thing with a multi-tool. It's a multi-tool. It's not going to be as good as a dedicated sheath knife or small saw. It's designed for convenience and for an easy carry in your pocket, in your pouch, in your backpack or whatever. So there will be times when you'll want to have a sheath knife or a saw in those respects. Or, as I said earlier, in my first aid kit, I carry a pair of scissors rather than relying on those small scissors. But at the end of the day, they're really useful. I like them. I've never had a Gerber. I have had some other multi-tools, but I've never had a Gerber, so I can't compare what a Gerbers are like with them. But yeah, they're pretty cool. They're pretty useful. Leatherman sidekick and Leatherman wingman, about 4 inches in length, and for those of you who want to know the dimensions, they're just under 1.5 inches wide, 1.25 inches, and you will be able to see how well used that one is, just because it's beginning to rattle a bit, just because it gets so much use over the years. Anyway, a Leatherman multi-tool. Let me know what you think, and it's basically thumbs up from me. I really like them. And that size is useful to carry with you if you are out and about. And no doubt, if you're into camping, if you're into outdoor activities like myself, or help out with the scouts, and I know quite a few scout leaders carry them for the same reason that I do, because they are multi-useful tools out there. Anyway, take care of yourself. I hope you found this useful, and in the meantime, just enjoy your archery. Thanks for listening to this episode. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you'd like to get in touch, you can find me on offthearrowshelf.com or on Instagram, offthearrowshelf again. You can even email me on offthearrowshelf@yahoo.co.uk. But most of all, remember to stay safe and enjoy your archery.